Welcome to the swamp. I'll be honest, I really didn't get into Enshrouded that much. I'm not saying it's a bad game, but my expectations were a little bit different from what we've got, and I've already tried many times to play it, but I would just get bored really quick. I don't think this is my type of game. I just wanted to be upfront about that, and why I'm only doing a first impressions rather than a full review as I normally do. With that being said, let's get into the first impression. My name is Excalligator. I rate games based on many categories that would fit into most survival games, based on a 1 to 5 system. If a category does not apply, it will not affect the game's overall score. Now let us get started. Enshrouded is a game that is touted to be an open-world survival fantasy RPG game where you could do and be anything. The building system is innovative, and the world being voxel-based means you can literally destroy the environment if you at least had the power to do so, all while delving into this dark mist known as the Shroud, which had led this world into a post-apocalyptic state. You are one of the few surviving humans who have some resistance to the pestilence, and must make your way through this world to vanquish the Shroud and make a new settlement for the human survivors. This game can run on a middle-of-the-road computer, though I would highly recommend an above-average computer. The character creation is serviceable, though I really don't think it's that expansive. There is nothing to alter your body. I don't even remember seeing facial options, though I could be wrong about that. The hairstyles are mostly the same. As I was looking at the various hairstyles, I really only see like 5 different types, and the rest are all of the same, with mild changes for minor variety. The beards also feel the same, but have less options. And also what annoyed me was that the hair on the beard looks so thin, like thin layer over thin layer on the chin, and you could see the skin underneath, even if you chose the full beard option. I don't know, I think I'm nitpicking a little bit too much on the beards, but either way, the character creation is going to be a 3 out of 5 for being serviceable, but lacks a lot of options. It just overall seems unfinished. The game starts off with a cutscene that explains the story leading up to your awakening. You wake up in a room where it seems that others had also woken up before you. You are sent through a small starting area through some caves, with a small introduction into the Shroud mechanic, as well as smaller enemies to get your feet wet. You can optionally just run through it and skip as I did. As you get out of the cave, you are led to an open world where you can go and do whatever, though you are given a small quest to help you set up and get started on your adventures. Again, you can optionally skip it and just explore at your leisure. I'm gonna rate the start a 5 out of 5. It was a good introduction, it told you the story, wet your feet a little bit with the main mechanics of the game, and helps you get started on your adventure. The exploration, I'm going to say, is the most disappointing part of this game. There is a lot to like here, but I'm going to say a hot take. I do not like the Shroud mechanic. Yes, I know that is what the game is all about, and it would have been fine if only some areas of the world were enshrouded, and you have to use the time mechanic to go deeper into the area and find secrets, but my biggest issue is that it feels that more than half of the map is covered, and half of what is covered has a red mist instead of a blue one, where it just kills you instantly. Yeah, that probably means I need to level up and get some power or item in order to survive the red mist, which is progression, but that means now that random areas around a third of the map is locked off, which also means I have to skirt around and try to find ways around it with the blue shroud too, and with the blue shroud I personally don't like. The time limit stuff just kind of gives me anxiety. It's a reason why I never finished Majora's Mask either. You can of course extend your time inside of the shroud with potions and some fires you can absorb to give you back more time, and in certain locations you can find either hills or towers that poke out of the shroud to give you a bit of an air before going back down. The area outside of the shroud also feels a bit empty too. You have a few wildlife, some scavenger camps to defeat, and I do like finding treasure chests and items on the ground that you could pick up. You could pick up most of any small item laying around, even if it was a book on the table, arrows on a target dummy, or even potions and other things that are just, laying around. Though I do have to say the biggest issue is that I really do not like the verticality of the map. I just do not like how it's steep cliffs everywhere with gorges all throughout the map, steeps and slopes. That's all this land is, with very few plateaus. Any game, really, that has messed up verticality like this is a negative one in terms of world layout and design. Enemies also do not dynamically spawn. They will spawn in the same spot every single time, though sometimes they do have a large wander area or leash in order to feel a bit more natural, similar to Grounded. You will notice that when you log out and back in again, everything in the world will reset, including any environmental damage caused by you or enemies. I once dug up a cliffside in order to make a staircase so I could get to a new area. The next time I logged on, it was gone and reset. That being said, I also like how with the environmental damage, you can locate new and hidden areas beneath rubble or behind a hidden doorway. Most chests and collectible items are also reset, so theoretically you can log off and back on again to keep gathering the same item over and over. Only things that are important items, like story items and so on, which usually glow red if you've not picked it up yet, those will not reset. Also, anything within the radius of your base will not reset. Overall, I'm going to rate the exploration a 2.5 out of 5. There's a lot of good things here. I like finding all the various treasure and random items you could pick up, like Skyrim. I like the environmental damage you could do as well, but I really don't like the extreme verticality and the fact that it just does not feel good when more than half of the map is covered in the shroud, and half of that shroud is deadly. There are no rolling hills or forests or anything that makes it feel like a normal fantasy game here, in terms of the map layout. The survival of this game is similar to Valheim. You are not really required to eat, but eating is encouraged by granting you boosting stats from increased stamina to more health, and other forms of bonuses from different types of food. Cooking food, of course, gives you better bonuses overall. Something else I like is that when you die, you don't drop everything on your person, only a few things that you can reclaim. It seems to prioritize resources when dropping, so it's unlikely to drop gear or weapons, though it can still happen. I would say my only gripe with the respawn is that it will pick the last spawning point you visited rather than the nearest one that you've unlocked. One time I died and I was close to my base, but instead of spawning me home, it threw me back down into the Shrouded Gorge. So I had to run all the way back through that again, which was annoying. You have potions to heal as well as bandages. I've already mentioned ways to extend the Shroud timer, and any fighting will be covered in the PvE section, so I'm going to rate this section a 4.5 out of 5. I just had my one little nitpick of the respawn, but the rest is fairly solid. The building is probably the showcase of the game. With the voxel system that it uses, you could build your home similar to Minecraft, but the blocks merge together to form one overall structure and give it an HD look rather than 8-pixel graphics. Just like in Palworld, you do have an area of building to do whatever you want within the circle, though one thing that this game does allow you to do that Palworld doesn't do is increase the radius of your base when upgrading. Everything in your base also will be saved, so if you dig into the ground, it will not reset when you log back in. So you can make cave systems or a basement for your home and have it saved. While gathering out in the world by picking up certain items and materials, you will unlock more recipes. This goes for crafting as well as building. There are tons of building blocks that you can use to make your home, from the basic wood and stone to even bone structures and much more. When you craft, you can make basic things in your inventory, but you also have several types of workbenches to make, from the basic one to various NPCs in the world to join your base and become workbenches for you. The first one you're likely to find is going to be probably the blacksmith. He becomes your crafting bench for anything weapons and armor related for melee users, but he can also make other items for utility and building purposes. The forge is really only to make higher grade metal for the blacksmith to utilize in his crafting. You can also find alchemists and a hunter, as well as a few other NPCs to progress, such as the farmer, and each one does a various type of unique crafting to progress you. I just have to say the worst thing about this section is that I hate that you cannot draw from chests in your base. I feel that games these days really need that quality of life. Either way, I'm gonna rate this section a 5 out of 5. The system is very unique to other survival games and hasn't really been seen before. I would say I have one criticism of the building, and that is the number of blocks, both crafted and needed to make the building pieces. I understand that most of the building utilizes smaller blocks over an area, so a small wall will need like 8 or so blocks to build for that small section, but I think the number should be reduced. It just seems weird when you make 32 or so blocks at a time, and you use all of them after placing 3 wall pieces. It's just kind of confusing with the numbers, but that aside, the building is fairly good. The PvE is more akin to an RPG. You have levels with leveled areas in the world. That is a form of difficulty. Leveling is much slower, though it takes quite a long time to get a single level, but that also means that levels mean something, as an enemy one level above you is going to be much harder than one that is your level. They are not impossible, but you certainly feel the power difference. You can choose between many forms of combat, from stealth to bows, melee, and magic. You can even find and make bombs, which also do environmental damage from the explosion. Just like in a normal RPG, you can find color-coded rare items with enhanced stats for their level ranges. While you cannot salvage items for raw materials, you can salvage them for unique currency that allows you to upgrade your current weapons to be even stronger. It helped a lot. While fighting enemies at first, I felt as I was doing nothing. Once I found a decent weapon that I liked and upgraded it, I was cleaving through those same enemies without an issue. You also feel stronger when putting in talent or skill points into your progression tree. It branches out in a way that you could build your character with a certain archetype, but allows for some overlapping in similar builds. There are boss battles in the game that you can find out in the world, as well as some mini dungeons in various locations. The enemies themselves I did find a bit boring. They always seem to do the exact same attack in the exact same order, so once you learn the pattern of their attack, you can easily avoid their damage by blocking or rolling at the right time. I would say I did find it a bit weird that you also needed ammo for magic attacks. I don't think I've ever played a game that's like that, and it felt off to me. I didn't quite like the ranged bow attacks either, but I did have a lot of fun using the two-handed weapons, and was smashing through enemies as if they were nothing. I'm gonna rate this section a 4 out of 5. I only dropped it a small amount due to the few nitpicks such as the boring enemies, and some of the weapon types not feeling that good to use. So the game starts off with an opening cutscene which tells you about the origins of the Shroud and how it came from a magical substance called the Elixir, which caused both of the races of the world, being the humans and the ancients, to go to war over its power. From there you can learn more of the history of the game by finding notes around the world, which is highlighted in red in the map. You can sometimes find environmental storytelling from scavenger camps and shrouded areas, and sometimes you could also learn from the NPCs that join your base. It is a basic enough form of storytelling without really an overall quest line. There are quests, but they are more so ways to send you out to new places and pretty much just side quests. The story as of right now is not finished and is still an early access game. Most of the story will be uncovered by the end of development. So for now, I'm going to rate this section a 3.5 out of 5 because it is a basic form of storytelling in games like this, with only a boost up for allowing us to talk to recoverable NPCs who are important to this overall story. I'm looking at you, Balthazar. I personally did not come across many bugs, maybe a few NPCs getting stuck in the walls or my character wanting to climb a ladder and rope that I didn't really want to at the time. Sometimes the building was a bit stiff, but overall it ran well. From what I've seen, most of the harsher bugs are coming from online and even co-op servers. From ladders being bugged so two people cannot climb it at once and they get stuck, and so on. So for now, I'm gonna rate this section a 4 out of 5. It's not perfect, there of course are going to be issues as it is an early access game, but it overall ran fairly well. So my overall score for the first impressions of Enshrouded is going to be a 4 out of 5. As I said, this isn't a bad game. There's a lot of good things that I like. I just personally did not like the map layout and the way the combat feels to me. I felt bored while playing it, and I kept wanting to go back to Pal World. Though I do intend to replay this game again when it comes out into the full release, and I will review it at that time with an open mind. Though aside that, what did you guys think? Did you enjoy this game or dislike this game, and why? When this video goes live, I'm going to host a poll on my channel for which game you like the most for January, Pal World or Enshrouded. February also has planned for many more survival games to launch. This is the year of survival games and I have much work to do, so until then, I will see you guys next time. And that is the end of this video. If you liked my review, please subscribe to this channel as I will be making more in-depth reviews of open-world, sandbox survival RPG games, including those that no one ever talks about from the deepest, darkest depths of Steam. Some games that even look like the muck at the bottom of my pond. If you have any suggestions for what game to do next, please comment below and like this video. Florida Gator Man out.